Hey there, friends. Welcome back to another episode of For All the Lonely Souls. My name is Erica. Today's episode is a very special one with someone who has been in my meetup group, For All the Lonely Souls, for the past month or so. His name is Troy, and Troy offered to share a little bit of his story, his past, and how he's pushed through the struggle, where he's at now, and just give you alternative perspective. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for listening.
Hey, what's up?
How have things been with you? How was your Thanksgiving?
It was awesome, other than eating so much I gained 5 pounds, but that's to be expected, right? How about you?
It was really good. I actually had 2 people from the meetup. They didn't have anywhere to go, so they hit me up, and they had Thanksgiving with me and my in-laws.
Seriously?
Yeah, it was really, really awesome. They were like, hey, what are you doing today? And I said, I'm going to my in-laws. You want to come? And so 2 people came.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Pictures.
Yeah, I got pictures. But yeah, things are going really good. I'm really glad that I get an opportunity to hang with you and chat with you. Yeah, and have like a more personal connection.
No, I think it's fantastic. I really think if we could get some other people to do this with you, every time we have a meetup group, where we get together, I just think it'll help bring us all closer together. I think it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I do too. And even for the people who can't physically come because they live somewhere else or if they just like their schedule hasn't worked out yet, it still is really awesome to hear other people's stories, their connections, and really realize that you are not alone in anything that you go through. Everybody's going through something or has, and it's just nice to have that connection with other people.
Amen to that. Well, I'm glad you kind of took me up on that request. I'd be excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I did a little intro about you briefly about how we kind of know each other, but we can seriously take this entire thing in whatever direction you want. You can use any type of language. I always mark my stuff explicit just in case I slip something or whatever, so no shame. You can talk about whatever is most comfortable for you, but ideally just a little bit about yourself and kind of what struggles you've been through that you really feel other people can benefit from your perspective, I think would be a really huge benefit to the listener. But, of course, anything else that you want to contribute or add is totally up to you.
So if I slip up and say, oh, fuck me, that's okay?
Of course. You have to be your most authentic self. No shame in that. So if that's you, then by all means do it.
It's just a word, people. It's letters. It comes together. It makes a sound. Not that big a deal.
It's not. Anyway. And I think that intent matters so much more than the actual word that comes out. And I think that your intent is very high, and people will respect that a lot more than the specific word. So don't worry about it.
Cool. Well, you sent me like 4 questions and stuff, and I think it's a great place to start. Kind of, you said you already did an explanation of kind of how we met. My take on it was, I had found the Meetup app a couple months earlier before meeting you, and joined a completely unrelated group. I was at a point in my life where I began enjoying the opportunity to get out and meet new people, something I had never done before.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out that group only met like once every few months, and I wanted to meet more people.
Yeah.
So I came across your group, For All the Lonely Souls, and you were actually having a meetup that night, so I joined, and I went to that meetup. That's one where we went to that park, had that castle.
Oh, yeah, Squire's Castle. Yeah, Squire's Castle.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
But then afterwards, we went out to, I don't know where we went, but we went somewhere and had some food and drinks and stuff, and it was a good 4 or 5 hours of just getting to know complete strangers. And you
really vibed you vibed so well with, I can't remember his name, but
Patrick.
It was Patrick. Okay, you guys were just like, y'all hit it off so fast, and I had not seen that at any other event before, and it was really amazing to witness that.
I haven't heard from him. I hope he listens to this and reaches out to me. We did exchange numbers. I need to reach out to him. But anyway, it was fantastic. Like I said, it was a good 4 to 5 hours of just being able to let loose and, talk to strangers. And like you said, and I think it's can kind of be the theme of what I talk about, understanding just how similar we all are. It was just a great time. But I got to stop for a second, just really, really, really thank you for the time and effort you put into things like this and organizing it and administering it. I know it can't be easy, and it's going to certainly take up some of your time, but thank you so much for doing that.
And that really means the world. I'm very appreciative
very
and
much
super grateful to be able to do this for people, and I've needed it so bad in my life, and I've been waiting for something to happen, or hopefully I'll find it later, and it was just wishful thinking, and I needed to take action, and I'm really glad it's helped support so many people like you. So thank you for being in it.
Do you get any help? Do you do it all by yourself?
Yeah, I do it all by myself. People have offered help, but I genuinely love doing all of it. I feel a lot of pride from doing it. I think it also helps me get out of my comfort zone. So for the time being, I'm doing pretty good, but if I need anything, I'll keep you in mind.
The second thing you sent me, or the question, was my history on loneliness and kind of how it put me at this moment in my life. And, it's not that much different than anybody else. I lived a life that had its ups and downs, sometimes not as bad as others, other times much worse than others. I'm always amazed now at how we go through bad times in our lives thinking we're all alone. Nobody can understand what we're going through as individuals, yet when we find the courage to share our stories with others, we find just how similar we all are in those daily struggles of life.
Yeah.
And I really wish people would reach out more and talk more to people.
I mean, it took me forever to even feel comfortable sharing anything about myself, because I was told to never talk about myself or the problems I have, or I'm not supposed to look outward. I'm just supposed to suppress it, hold it in, and let it be whatever it's going to be, because that's how my parents dealt with things. That's how their parents dealt with things. So it's been a generational thing for me, and I didn't even realize that until a couple of days ago, that is why it is the way it is. I don't know. I wish I knew that it's okay to talk to people. Like, you need to talk to people. You need the connection.
You know now.
I do know now. True.
With you and Jared being a young couple, and I'm sure you're going to have a family soon and stuff, and there's your opportunity to break that chain, and raise children and say, look, you don't keep it inside. You talk about things. But my entire life was spent not putting myself first in anything. I didn't know just how important that was. Hell, I didn't even know it was an option.
Yeah.
I lived for everybody else, my spouse, children, my job, the community. I gave it all I had, and living for everyone else just sucked the life out of me, and I didn't know how to replenish it.
Yeah.
And when I found myself not being needed by others, going through a divorce, the kids growing up, moving away, I was completely lost. I didn't know who I was and didn't know what I wanted to be.
Yeah, I can totally relate. And I also like how you said that it's like you didn't realize that you had an option to think otherwise, because I totally can vibe with that too. But keep going.
No, you're absolutely right. It's just things we don't learn until later in life, unfortunately. But I didn't understand that loneliness starts with not knowing yourself first and foremost. That's what I've learned this year, and it's so important to me. You can have all the friends and family in the world, but if you don't know yourself, you will feel loneliness. And loneliness is a magnet for negativity, and it repels positivity. We should all want the opposite, but knowing yourself unlocks your true potential and the power you have as an individual. You realize that you're in charge of your happiness, and you would never ask someone else to be in charge of that happiness, because nobody's going to do a better job at it than you. When you get to know yourself, you understand empathy, because you allow yourself to feel pain over and over again, and you understand that it can only continue to cause you pain if you allow it. So you no longer give it a platform, and it becomes more of a story and less of a painful memory. When you get to know yourself, you know what forgiveness really means, because you're truly forgiving yourself along the way, and you choose to evolve as a person.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of, loneliness for me. And another thing, this is so important, I didn't understand how important physical and emotional health was, and that neglecting it compounded the loneliness.
Absolutely.
You know, I've really learned this year that we have a finite amount of resources in our body on a daily basis. Our body is full of crappy processed foods. You know, it uses up all those resources to deal with that crap, and there's nothing left over for the psychological aspects of our lives. On the flip side of that, when our gut biome is really healthy and we get ourselves good quality food, it needs very little resource to process that, and there's a bounty of resources left over to use for the psychological needs that we have. Mm-hmm. So we're just now kind of finding out this huge connection between our gut health and our brain health, healthy gut, healthy brain. But just wanted to throw that in there because it's something that I've really come to understand this year.
Yeah, I actually read a book recently. I can't remember the title of it, but it was talking about like your gut flora, which I learned a lot about when I went to the chiropractor. They always talked about gut flora and how it affects your nervous system and your brain function and everything else for your body. But it's interesting that you brought that up because I was just picking on that again too.
Well, let me ask you this. When Jared was going through the back pain where mm-hmm. he couldn't walk for almost a year and he got with the chiropractor and did all that, was any part of that healing, you know, gut biome related or healthy foods or anything like that?
Yeah, so he focused so much on a whole food plant-based diet, which is something that I've had in my life for a long time anyway, but it was more for Jared, and then also specific foods that are really good for gut flora that are plant-based foods and where to find them and how to prepare meals. But yeah, absolutely. Nutrition was something that was definitely talked about.
Well, it's fantastic. It's amazing. So that's kind of my take on the loneliness and where I was. You know, if you want to talk about kind of the milestones and the struggles through that. In January of this year, 2019, I was 51 years old. I was morbidly obese at 360 pounds. I was on more pills that you could shake a stick at, medication for sleep, inflammation, high cholesterol, depression, pain, and I knew I was on my way to, I was pre-diabetic, and that whole thing was coming. On top of all that, I was dealing with more stress at work than anybody could deal with, and I'm not kidding. My Apple Watch would warn me several times that my heart rate was reaching a point where I'd probably want to pay a visit to the nearest hospital. I mean, that's just how bad the stress was. I was just on a very quick run off a very short tier. I knew death by either a heart attack or a stroke was coming for me, and it was coming quick. Yeah. So, you know, and I wanted to change. Who wants to be like that? I wanted to change. I truly did, but I couldn't. Like I said, nobody in their right mind would want to live that way. I would pray to God and beg so much for help and just say, look, give me an ounce of courage, a little bit of determination, and I'll do the rest. But the help wasn't there. I couldn't get it. I knew if I didn't do something drastic was going to happen to me, and not in a good way. So that was in January. By the time March came around, I had been back to the doctors. He pretty much said, yes, you're pre-diabetic, and we need to start talking about insulin and sugar levels and all this, and start doing that. And I just freaked out. You know, we know at times that sometimes you got to hit rock bottom before you really make a change. Mm-hmm. My rock bottom would have been a heart attack or a stroke, and I wasn't going to wait around for it. So I jumped off the fucking cliff. Yeah. I walked away from my job, making, you know, over $150,000 a year, full benefits, had nothing to rely on but myself. And I just walked away from it all. It just shortly over time, you know, the major stress in my life was gone. I started making some small changes in my diet. You know, the pills all ran out, and I made even more changes to the diet. The fogginess in my head started clearing up. I made even better choices, started exercising, adding that to my daily routine. And now here we are 8 months later, and I'm almost 100 pounds lighter. I don't have to take any medications whatsoever. My physical and emotional health are top-notch, and I'm not lying. I am happier than I have ever been in my entire life.
Consistency pays off. That's amazing. You should feel
That's awesome.
I know you already feel amazing, but it's really, really incredible of you to stay this consistent for this long and still want to keep going and see the reward on the other end, even in the small little daily rewards that come.
I'm doing things that I never thought I would do. You know, I love being creative. I love writing. I love drawing, airbrushing, painting, just all those type of things, and had never done it in decades. And I'm doing more of that now, especially the writing. I love writing, but it's something I wanted to talk to you about. But, you know, and speaking of that, I'm going to ask you, on August 30th, you wrote, what was it called? My Truest Truth. It was on CaliPoppies.com.
Okay.
In it, you said, writing has helped save my life, which I agree with. There is something magical about it, but can you speak to that a little bit? I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting that you pulled from that. I have not reread that article in a while, but I think writing holds a lot of different forms for me. I find it very therapeutic whenever I'm reading, and I find quotes within books, or even like through Instagram or whatever. I find something that's inspiring, I always write it down, and I think that as I'm physically rewriting whatever was before me, it becomes more internalized into my brain, and then therefore I hold on to that thought a little bit longer, and I try to continually remind myself of that thought throughout the day and stay true to it. I don't know how that works with my subconscious, but I think that there's an interesting connection there with physically writing. But then when it comes to like writing a blog post even, I will reread some of my stuff after not looking at it for a while and see something that I didn't even realize I had the ability to write. It's been sitting in me all along, the way that I delivered it or the words that I said or the connection that I made or, oh, my God, I really thought of that. I think it's really inspiring for me to just look back on myself and see that I'm capable of absolutely anything, and I should give myself more credit more often.
No, I totally agree. That's a lot of the same things I'm finding in writing. And, you know, I sent you, when we started going down this path and talking about this podcast, I sent you the journal that I had wrote throughout the year, this year, and about what was going on with me. And to me, you know, everybody should seriously consider just, even if it's just a journal that nobody's going to read and it's only for yourself, there's something about putting pen to paper that takes those thoughts and gives it credibility and something that you can just ingest a little bit more, a little deeper.
I agree.
It was huge for me to sit there and write those things out, as raw as it was, as hard as it was, as physical as it was, to think those thoughts and what had been going on in my life. Putting it down on paper was just a phenomenal help to me.
And it's good to look back on it, too. It's so inspiring to see how much you've grown or how much your personality has changed, or you look back and then you really have to hold yourself accountable because the way you are right now is totally shittier than the way that you were, you know, a day ago, a month ago, and you need to check in with yourself and get yourself back on track. So I think that it's a good thing to always hold on to. That's why I love doing these podcast episodes, even as early on as these are. But I have something that I can hold back on and look at myself and reflect and try to improve and provide more support. And I just think it's interesting, the whole documenting of your life. It can be scary and a bit uncomfortable, but if it's, you know, for good benefit for people all around looking for something similar to what you're trying to do for yourself in terms of support, then I'm all about it. So I think that's probably why I share my writing too.
And I appreciate that. We all do very much. And you and I are both on Talk Life app. And, you know, there's a lot of things that you post on there that are incredible every day. And, you know, people just need to go to CaliPoppies.com and just take a look at a lot of the stuff that you've written and stuff. It's very inspiring. So we appreciate that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you so much. It means a lot that you're on the other end. And I know that it's not just me thinking crazy, weird things, doing crazy, weird things, experiencing that alone. It feels really, really good. And I appreciate that.
You know, those are the internal struggles that we have, but then we all have to deal with those outward struggles. And I kind of want to go back a little bit when you left teaching and ask you about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And looking at your writing, you obviously loved it. It was something that was major to you, but you seemed to leave it behind because it looked like you were disenfranchised with the whole fraud of it all.
Yeah.
Is that a true statement?
Yeah, so that is true. I did love being around kids. I felt that I could just be as vulnerable as I wanted in front of them, and there was no judgment. They're just children. They're also trying to experience that. And I felt like I was a good role model. But at the same time, the amount of hours were so demanding. Your summers are not really summers. You have so much required additional in-service days. You have tons of just additional regulations that make it so difficult for you to really want to do your job. And then there are things you're just not even allowed to do when you know it's in the best interest of your kids. And you're just setting them up for failure a lot of times. And I just could not be a part of that anymore. I couldn't do it.
It's amazing to hear you talk about it because, it's not just in education that this fraud exists. I mean, it's in our politics, our corporations, agriculture, medical, pharmaceuticals, the list goes on and on. Literally every aspect of our lives that we deal with this. And I guess my question was, how do you come to terms with all of it? I mean, there's so much outside negative influence coming at us.
I've stopped listening to a lot of stuff. I have not watched the news, and I don't even know how long. I'm not really involved too much in politics. I know what I need to know because I live here, but I don't really know the ins and outs. I'm really just focused on me living my life for myself because no matter who is elected president, no matter who makes a decision for this city, it's not going to affect my life to the extreme of me getting myself out of my own shit. I am creating my own prison. I am creating my own success. It is up to me to fuel that for myself. And I know that there might be someone on the other end thinking that this is totally crazy, but I mean, you are the gatekeeper for the rest of your life. Like, you have to decide how you want to live it regardless of what's going on around you.
Do you feel a responsibility at all, though, to, not disengage and try to help?
That's why I also made the meetup group and this podcast and continue to write and do my best to put my stuff out there in a way that's truthful and honest for people that are looking for this stuff, because people have been emotionally abused. People have been dealing with hardships throughout their life. They have no one that they can talk to, and they keep putting themselves so much lower in a hole, and they can't see a way out, which I've felt before. And I hate that feeling of no one can relate. It's just me. I'm stuck. I'm trapped. I'm worthless. I don't mean anything to anybody. It'd be easier if I wasn't here. Like, all of this negative stuff, I know that I'm fixing for myself. Therefore, I know that I can help support other people by just being honest and sharing my strategies that have worked for me in hopes of it helping other people. And I think people should really start taking ownership of their life a little bit more. No one is going to save you except yourself. You can listen to as many motivational things as you want and talk to as many positive people as you want, but it totally takes action and consistency to want to live a better life for you.
No, it's all well said. I did much the same thing. I got rid of cable. I was so sick and tired of television and the media, and whether it was left or whether it was right, it was all greed.
Yeah, it's also
everything
important
they did
about,
was all about greed.
Yeah, and I think it's also important, besides just media in general, I think that the people that you have in your life can either support you or drown you. And I've been around so many people that were drowning me and not pushing me in the direction of living a happier life. There's so much fear, and mostly a lot of fear-based living within that group of people. And a lot of them were family, a lot of them were close friends, and I had to get rid of a lot of that. So I think auditing the people in your circle and how they're influencing your life is really valuable.
Agreed. Hey, answer me this. Is it true that you did not try cannabis until you got to Cleveland?
That is, well, the very first time was in Houston with my cousins, but I didn't know what I was doing. Nothing really happened. Typical story for a lot of people. But then I really started using it when I moved up here because of my migraines. The weather fluctuated so much more here. It still does a lot more here than in Houston, where that was the only place I'd ever lived. and my migraines were getting worse, and I loved it. And then it sort of like slowly turned into only Fridays, and then like all the time, and then it's just become such a huge part of my life and put me in such a happy place. It's been a great ride with cannabis.
I love it because us Clevelanders, we know how to screw people up. We do. Here you came from Houston, like this innocent little girl. Hi, my name's Erica. And a few years later, we turned you into dude. What's up?
I mean, I think it's so great, though. I think that I've always needed something that put life in such a positive perspective all the time that could make me feel like even today, it's seriously the grayest, grossest day outside. But I know that I still feel so amazing about everything that's going on within me and everything that I'm working on and all the people that I really am connecting with and helping. So I think that it just has widened my eyes to how I can live my life.
The truth of it is, people do not need to be afraid to go out there and find help. Okay, with you, it was cannabis. I personally can't do cannabis. I can, but I just get paranoid, and it's not for me. But, when I shared my journal with you, you obviously read that there was a big part of that journal in my journey this year that had to do with psilocybin.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had gotten into, I had watched a Joe Rogan podcast with a guy named Paul Stamets probably a year ago, and I was fascinated about fungi and mushrooms and all this stuff, and just really started doing a lot of research on it, more for, health benefits, vitamin type things. But then that led into the psychedelics and all the research that was going on with psychedelics and macrodosing and microdosing, and I really kind of got into that, really doing a lot of research on it. You read, and I'd be happy to share my journal with anybody that would like to have a copy of it. It's a short read. It's like 7,000 words, but it talks about my experience with a heroic dose, which was 5 grams, and I was somebody that never done psychedelics in my life. I smoked a little bit of weed here and there when I was a kid and stuff like that, but I was just never that kind of person. I wasn't that druggy, and I use that term loosely. That's what it was, or thought of years ago. It's just not that way anymore. But anyway, tried a heroic dose, did it with what they call a guide, somebody who understands it. You meet several times before, and you talk about what you're trying to get out of the session. You have the session. There's integration after the session. There's a lot more that goes into it that anybody can read about. But that was one thing that really helped me a lot, and the microdosing. I just think it's great that you tried it. It works for you. It does something positive in your life, and you should be allowed to do it.
I agree. I think everyone should be able to but to really dictate how they choose to live their life. And I think that since you found something that opens your eyes to what's really inside you and how you really feel about things and how you can overcome them, I mean, look where you are now compared to before you even had any experience with that and how much your life has transitioned. And I see that with my experience with cannabis and trusting myself and feeling like I'm capable of anything I put my mind to because I'm a hard worker, I'm dedicated, and I know what I'm really good at. And it helps influence my life. So I think that you finding that for you is really amazing.
No, it was a fantastic journey. And, the truth of it is my journey over this past 8 months, the whole psilocybin side of it was just a small part of it. But it was a part of it, and I'm happy that I did it. Probably be a long-ass time before I ever do anything like that again. What did you think when you read that journal? Be honest.
Well, I wasn't scared of anything or horrified. I definitely was. I think I was a bit surprised that you would share something so personal like that. With me, it's like we'd only kind of really met twice, maybe for a couple of seconds here and there, right? So I was just surprised more than anything. But I thought it was really inspiring to see how much depth you put into it the flow of it was really interesting. I felt like I was following you in different parts of your life and how it all kind of came together. I was really intrigued, and I think that it's not something anybody else has ever said like that to me. People tell me things, and I'm usually surprised that they even tell me some of their personal things, but this one caught me off guard a little bit, but in a really good way. I think it opened my perspective to understand you a little bit more and your experience with that, because I don't know anybody else who's had an experience like that.
What was it that caught you off guard, really? Was it just that I was willing to be
so vulnerable,
honest, and to a complete stranger?
Yeah, like that vulnerable. I don't know. I think that it's been hard for me to really open up about a lot of stuff. Some people have said, your podcasts are kind of teasers. You're not really telling everything. And I think that I've been telling myself, well, no one really wants to hear all the details. But like if I'm sharing stuff and someone asks, then, I need to talk about it. Or I just need to talk about it to get off my chest. I'm going to talk about it because somebody else will probably need to hear it. So I'm just really impressed with your vulnerability and being okay with just saying whatever and letting whatever come back at you. It takes a lot of courage to do that.
Yes, it does. But I guess what I'd like to ask you, whether or not you've shared the rawness of your life with others is really not the point. Have you shared it with yourself? Have you really written that down and really thought about the rawness of your own life?
Actually, funny that you're saying that. Within the past couple of days I have. I kind of had a little bit of a rough personal weekend where this was the first Thanksgiving I didn't really hear from my family. I've been having some ins and outs with them over the years, and it's not that I really need them to talk with me over Thanksgiving, but as I've gotten older, I thought things might change a little bit, but I just can't put my energy into my family, and that was starting to eat at me, and then I was feeling guilty, and then I was in a really low place all day Saturday. It was pretty bad. And I had to figure out a way to pull myself out. Jared helped pull me out. He does such a good job of putting life into perspective for me when I can't see any other way, and realize that this is all incredibly stupid. Like, none of this matters. I have a family right now. I have so much going on that I can really help support people, and I need to take this experience and figure out what I can learn from it for myself and use that as fuel to share back. So I've started a 31-day blogging journey of all December. Every single day I'm going to write something almost like a journal on my CalliePoppies.com. So I wrote one yesterday, wrote one this morning, and it's just snippets of my rawness, I guess. And I know it will get better as the days go on.
Right. Well, that was the whole point for me. Life had gotten so bad, and all the stupid shit that I went through in my life, I had to be willing to get very, very raw with myself and put pen to paper and give it a platform in order to really understand it and dissect it and live with it. Mm-hmm. And it really helped me when I did that. Now, sharing it, that's a personal preference. Mm-hmm. But to me, sharing it, the more I share it, the more people read it, the more it becomes just a story, and the less it becomes, the pain in my past. Mm-hmm. So I very much appreciate you taking the opportunity and reading it. It really meant a lot to me. So thank you. Yeah, for
sure. Absolutely. I was honored to read it. Very honored. Well, is there anything else you'd like to leave this community with? Any last thoughts? Any word of advice?
Just love yourself. You really got to love yourself. I cannot say that enough. Love yourself and make taking care of yourself physically and emotionally a huge part of that. You've got spouses, you've got children, family, friends, whatever the case may be. You're not good to anybody if you're not taking care of yourself. So love yourself, take care of yourself physically and emotionally. You've got to spend some time to get to know yourself and find out what really makes you happy. And don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and try something different, like a 10-day, for all the lonely souls meetup group. It's fantastic. Come out and meet with us and talk to us. And I'm excited to do this with you and then go to that next meetup and hear people say, hey, I heard that podcast, and, just open up the conversations. And I can't wait till you have other people on the podcast to do the same thing. But, I guess you do what you can to make a difference in the world. Just do something, no matter how small it is. Just keep that mindset of, I can make a difference, and it starts by knowing yourself and getting to know cool people like you.
Same goes to you. Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share this with me and everybody else on the other end. And if any of you guys want to get in touch with Troy, what is the best way for them to reach out to you or connect with you?
If you're on the Meetup app, you can hit me up on the Meetup app, or you can shoot me a quick email. That's T as in Troy, GATTSH @gmail.com. Shoot me an email. I'd love to share my journal with you and talk to you.
Awesome.
I'm doing a lot of writing right now and writing several books, so I'm excited to get those completed next year and get those out. And, it's going to be great.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for listening, guys. If you're interested in sharing a little bit about your story, your life, current struggles, or just giving an alternative outlook, feel free to hit me up. I'm always looking for people to share their personal successes and struggles through this channel because your story matters. Feel free to hit me up. And if not, no worries. Thanks so much for listening. You guys are the best. Have an awesome rest of your day. See you guys soon.